You can see Selma if you've seen it or re-see it. And they're also having a guest speaker who he himself has been involved in the civil rights movement. So, hi Rich, good to have you here. You know, just clarify for me again, your last name. Is it Havard, Harvard?
That's confusing. I get this a lot. This is on, but...
Yeah, it's on. They'll get you green.
I get this a lot, but my last name is Havard. It's not Harvard.
Although you look very Harvard-ish.
Yeah, I try. That's my goal, but it's just Havard.
All right. Well, so your bio's in there, so they already know that you were born in the South. But how did a boy from the South get up here to the frigid North?
When I woke up and it was 2 degrees, I asked myself the same question. So I am from a small town, you see the bio, Gloucester, Mississippi. I bet none of you have ever heard of it. In fact, I would bet a lot of money on that. So it is less than 1,000 people, 20 minutes from a red light, middle of nowhere, small town, Mississippi. And in that place, condensed story is that everything is Christian, right? As you can imagine, everything is sort of stamped with Christianity. Baptist, right? Exactly. Yeah, right. And so I grew up there, and also at the same time, while everything is stamped with Christianity, there we go. There is also this intertwined with it is also, as you can think of, Mississippi, rampant racism and sexism and classism, and all these things are also part of the language, the lingo of the church. And as I saw these things, they didn't mesh for me. They didn't align with each other, even from a young age. And then in my church, for some reason, my Southern Baptist church, they hired 2 ministers who would be at home in a church like Southminster. And I have no idea why, except for God's grace. And they came
That's
and
what
showed
it's all
me.
about, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. It's right. And showed me a different way to follow Jesus. And they were people of deep spirituality. They were connected to God in an intimate way. They were justice seekers and cared about justice and service in the world. And they loved people really well. They were pastors who were out in the community and meeting people and talking to folks. And especially my dad is a churchgoer, and the only time he's ever done church is when one of those pastors was there. And that meant a lot to me. And so seeing those things, I said, I want to do that. I want to be involved in ministry that way. And that sort of launched me on a path. When I was 16, I decided I want to work in the church. And then went to undergraduate in Birmingham, Alabama at Samford, not Stanford, but Samford. And then I went to seminary in Atlanta, graduated in May of 2014, and I moved up to Chicago to work at Urban Village Church. It's a church in the city that's about 6 years old and has 4 locations in 4 different neighborhoods. And they had a residency program to come and learn how to create and launch new inclusive faith communities. And so I did that program, and then now I'm at UIC helping to launch a new ministry there.
So when Rich and I had a great Mexican lunch, about 3 or 4 hours. We sat and just had a great conversation. One of the things I was struck by in our conversation was how in mainline denominations we're hearing, Rich, that the millennials are totally disengaged, or for the most part disengaged. And you have this training now in new church development here at UIC, and you spoke about this in the mid-hour a little bit. But, why is there this disengagement of millennials, and what can we as the faith community do to try to create a bridge to welcome?
Right. So there are lots of stats out there, and I talked about some in the mid-hour, as Steve just said, about people's perceptions, millennials' perceptions of the church. And there's a lot of, not just anecdotal evidence and stories, but hard data about what people think. And one of the ones I was talking about earlier was the sort of top 9 things that millennials think about the church. And these are not the top 9 bad things. These are the top 9 things in general, but all of them are bad. And so they are, anti-gay, don't care about justice and real issues, hypocritical, judgmental, boring, anti-intellectual, all these things. And we know that that's not true of faith communities, right? Or it doesn't have to be true. And yet the perception, the not unfounded perception, is that that's what the church is about. And so millennials are leaving not what we know about the beauty of the church, but they're leaving or never engaging in the first place that perception of the church. And so I have a real passion for, and one of the reasons why I was at Urban Village is about 60 to 75% millennial. It's a mainline church, and so it's pretty rare. And also this new ministry of engaging with college students. I have a passion for connecting students to the kind of faith community that we know. I have been nurtured in the church, found deep community in the church, experienced grace in the most powerful of ways in church community, and launched into justice efforts. I know what the church can be, and so many of you know what it can be. So what does it look like for us to engage millennials and to show them this alternative of a place where you can ask good questions, where you can have doubts, where you can still believe in science, where you can seek justice, where you can be welcomed for all of who you are? That kind of place millennials will take and be excited about. And so how do we create opportunities to engage?
So Rich knows this, but about 11 years ago, I was asked by the Presbyterian of Chicago if I would lead a task force to review the ministry of Agape House at UIC. And I was pretty transparent at the time and said, I haven't even been on the campus of UIC for like 25 years, but I had the privilege of putting together a group of people that tried to redefine the ministry of what was then called Agape House. And it's sort of been chugging and going and chugging and going. And now Rich came, and the first thing he did was to change the name to what is now called New and Inclusive Ministries. That's sort of a bridge name, but can you just speak to that for a second?
Yeah, sure. So, as Steve said, we were called Agape House. When I started in August, about 5 months ago, I knew two things. One was that no one at UIC, less than 1% of the population, knew what agape meant. Agape is a Greek word for love, but my students, they don't know Greek, they don't know that word, it's not part of their lingo, and so it was confusing. Two is that we had sold the house, the physical house, 7 or 8 years ago. And so we were called Agape, no one knows what that meant, and we didn't even have a house. And so I said, maybe Agape House isn't the best name for us as we move into the future and relaunch this ministry. But at the same time, I didn't think it was good for us to just come up with a new name out of thin air in a hurry. I wanted to get on campus, get to know the culture, and then create something new. And so we're using this bridge name or interim name, New and Inclusive Ministry, to signify we're new, we're doing things new on campus in a new way for new people. We're inclusive. All people are welcome. Believer or doubter, liberal or conservative, LGBTQ or straight, whoever you are, you're welcome in our community, and we really mean that. Ministry, we are about life change and world change. We want our students to have such a deep experience of love and grace that they become justice makers in our world. And we're at UIC. We're rooted in a campus community, and we're for college students, and not just at UIC, also in surrounding colleges in Chicago.
Great, so let's welcome Rich. This is week 2 of a 4-week series called Mission Month at Southminster. Last week we heard from Jane Reinschmidt about her mission ministry to the Dominican Republic, and this week we welcome Rich, and we have 2 more to go.